Okay, so these questions are questions 4 through 6, 4, 5, and 6. You need to find the domain and the range. Okay, so just real quick notes about domain and range. Remember that domain is all the input values for a function. This is all the values along the x axis, right? And then range is all the possible, should have said possible for that one, possible output values of a function. This or these are on the y-axis. So the domain is all the, let's say, possible inputs. And then again, these are on the x-axis. Okay, so one of the best ways to do this is to graph. It's to graph the function. So let me show you. And I've talked about this in class using Desmos. All right, so Desmos is a very useful calculator to use. So on here again, you can write y equals x, and again, this one, for anything that's linear, the domain is from negative infinity to positive infinity. This goes left and right forever, and same thing for the range, negative infinity to positive infinity. And we always, when we're talking about range and domain, well, for domain, um, it is written from left to right, right, left to right, and the range is written from bottom up, or bottom to the top. Okay, so just let you see that real quick. So again, this is written from left to right. We start on the left and we move. So what's the starting value on the left? If it's negative infinity, then we put negative infinity. If it starts all the way from it goes forever to the left, negative infinity. And then if it goes all the way to the right, then we put positive infinity. If it stops at some point, then we write that number. Like if it stops at 5, then we say 5. For the range, we start at the bottom. The first number we write is the bottom number. Or if it's in negative infinity, then we put negative infinity, and up to positive infinity. Okay, so let's look at some different functions. So on your, by the way, on your, let me go back real quick. On the homeworks, unfortunately, some of the questions just don't come out right. So if you see something like this, y equals x2, right? That means x squared. Okay, and I apologize for that. It's just one of those things where the transferring of the questions from one platform to another just doesn't help, right? If you see something like this, y is equal to let's say 9x4. That's 9x to the fourth. Okay, and so when you're doing these questions and one of these questions comes out and you're not sure, okay, what does this mean? Does it mean to the second power? Is this the square root? Any of those? Take a quick picture and send it to me through Pronto, and I'll let you know. This is what it means. I can pretty much tell what they tried to do. Okay. So just be aware that this one, again, that means x squared, and it's just for whatever reason it just doesn't transfer very well. So it should be a superscript. Sorry, this should also be a superscript, but unfortunately it doesn't come out that way. All right. So real quick, back to what we were talking about then on these. So if it's x squared, so the domain on a parabola is always negative infinity to positive infinity. The range is the one that's going to depend on where the vertex is. So in this case, it's at 0, 0. So it's going to start at 0, and it's going to go up to positive infinity in this case. Now remember, if I have a minus, let's say 5 on the outside, it shifts it down 5. Okay. So if it shifts it down 5, then the the range is going to be from negative 5 to positive infinity. It goes up forever. And on these, you're including the negative 5, so it should look something like this, where you have uh, a bracket. So like this negative 5, comma, and then infinity. You could just look for the symbol, right? Because it's multiple choice, so something like that. So that's what it'll look like. So just be careful with that. Um, x to the third power again. Whoops. X to the third, like that. So that looks like a paperclip that you open up. Now this is also going to be, now the range, since this got bent down, the range will be from negative infinity all the way to positive infinity. And you could zoom out as much as you can. See, that's like already what, 100,000, 300,000, and you can see that it just keeps going. The domain will be the same thing, negative infinity to positive infinity. Now when you have those square root ones, just hit home, go back to where the original. So now here we see it starts here and it goes up like this. So the range is definitely the domain. Sorry, let's start with the domain. From left to right, we're starting at 0, 0. And again, on these, you're including the 0 because 0 is possible. You can plug in 0, you get an answer. So bracket on the 0, and it's going to positive infinity. And then same thing for range. Actually, it's going to be 0 going up to positive infinity. So for those, again, it's going to look a lot like this one. On the previous one that I was showing you with the 5. So this would just be 0 instead, right? And you're including the 0. The only time you would not include the 0 is if plugging in the 0 would give us an error. So in this case, it doesn't give us an error, so we're okay with that. Okay, so I hope that kind of clarified it for you a little bit.